how to manage the anxiety and or to decrease the anxiety, because believe it or not, I was a person with high functioning anxiety. Welcome to the Love Holistic Living podcast, your roadmap to heal and align mind, body, and soul and become intuitive through food, pleasure, and spirituality with your host and Italian friend, Sara. Welcome back to the channel and the podcast episode with the Love Holistic Living. Here it's Sara, your favorite Italian spiritual healer and friend. Don't forget to subscribe and like this episode. And if you are a highly functioning anxiety person and or have anxiety here and there and or you worry too much, then let me know in the comments, because this is so important and I would love to read your comments on what you feel, what you're experiencing. I will give you the 5 tools that have helped me the most that you've probably never heard before, because they go kind of like beyond logic. And it's something that I have discovered as I enter the world of natural medicine and holistic medicine. As you know, or probably don't know, I'm a holistic practitioner and I studied Eastern medicine. That's how I started. I started with the body. And I fell in love with the Eastern medicine called Ayurveda. Veda means science, Ayur means life. So it's the ancient holistic science of life, originated in India more than 5,000 years ago. So I studied that at the beginning of my 20s. I fell in love with it and something beautiful happened, because that was my last gap in healing the relationship with my body, but most importantly, healing my anxiety. And I want to focus on giving you the 5 steps that have helped me tremendously heal my anxiety to the point where I can manage it. And I don't live like a person who has high functioning anxiety. Actually, that's pretty much gone. And it's not going to happen overnight, but if you do practice what I'm about to tell you, your life will change. So I'm going to start with the first one, which is honestly a little bit counterproductive for your brain right now. Like, you're not going to resonate with it until I really explain why. And it starts with the physical body. The first 2 steps are related to the holistic medicine side of the story here. And the first one is having a structured routine. Now, in Eastern medicine, anxiety is the energy of wind. So if you think about the wind, is very light, very unpredictable, very mobile. It creates a lot of movement, right? That's literally the energy of anxiety. And in order to get a grasp, like control the anxiety, you have to ground that energy. And for a storm to be contained, you need to create a structure. What I mean by structure related to the lifestyle and the routine is that if your lifestyle is absolutely disorganized, which means that you wake up and you don't have a very specific routine, and I'm not saying to the T, but like having a structure of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you kind of like have days where you work 10 hours a day, days where you work 2, days where you don't do anything. You know, I've had that when those years of college where I had to work a lot and study a lot. And then I had days where I didn't do anything. So my routine was very sporadic, and that's life. But it threw me off completely, right? So the best thing that you can do right now is to create a structure. So what can you do, and what activities and or practices, daily habits you can implement right now in order to create that sense of safety for the body. And for example, maybe you'd like to wake up every day around 6 to 7, or maybe 5 to 6. Maybe if you're not a morning person, 9 at the latest, and then go to bed by 10 or by 11 or by 12 midnight. Ideally, you want to go to bed by 10. And having that structure of the meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, It's key in order to manage the anxiety. Why? Because the anxiety will increase and will be tied into your appetite. So if you are already an anxious person and you do not have regular meal times or because you follow your body, which is totally fine, but believe me, you need structure, or you go for a long period of time without food. And believe me, I used to coach weight loss. I had people that came into the door only eating one meal a day. I'm not going to talk about weight loss, but I can tell you right now that will create high levels of anxiety. So what you want to do is to create that structure, that daily practices, morning routine, your tea, your coffee, your journaling, your meditation, which I'll talk about it in a second. And also things that will keep you balanced and not in a rush. So remember, one thing is if you keep going from one thing to another without processing any of it, you will create a tornado, not even a storm. So make sure that you apply the structure in your routine and let me know what happens. Leads me to the next one, which is diet. Absolutely important. Not everybody understands this unless they really try it. For individuals that have a lean body like me, so if you're looking at the screen right now or you know my physical body, how I look on social media, by nature, I have a lean body. That means that I look lean by nature, like that's my body type. Then we have the medium frame and then we have the curvier frame. For individuals that are lean, they're more prone to anxiety. So routine is important, but diet is important. And what I mean by that is that the anxiety energy is the energy of the wind. So we need to ground that energy. And we can do it through meditation practices, which will be the next step. But you have to start with the physical body. You cannot forget about the physical body. Absolutely not. Some people think that they can only work on the energetic body and that's it. And I can tell you right now, you cannot build a house without proper foundations. So when you do a lot of spiritual work and your body cannot hold it because you have anxiety, because you're not eating right, because whatever, you are restricting food and all of that, like your body is the foundation of the home. You cannot just build a roof without the foundations. Like it will fall. So making sure that you ground the anxiety through the food. What I mean by that is that in Eastern medicine, you need to start eating things that are grounding in nature. So, and by nature, they have that property. Things like vegetables that come from the ground. Okay, think about potatoes, sweet potatoes, carrots, beets. You can have other vegetables that have a sweeter taste. Think about zucchini. Zucchini have a sweeter taste, right? Think about, also cucumber is great, but like less of the raw, which a lot of people go for the raw because it's highly nutrients, yet raw food has the energy of wind. So if you put two together, wind and wind, you create a storm. So at the beginning of my journey, I did not want to make that change because it really was uncomfortable for me when I had body dysmorphia to introduce more fats and more carbs, not carbs, but more grounding foods into my diet because I was afraid to gain weight. Now, once I started adjusting my body and realizing that my body was working better and wasn't gaining weight by, creating a routine and introducing good, healthy fats and fruit that is sweet, vegetable that are sweet, they're coming from the ground, that have that energy, but also more of, for specifically the body type, things that ground your body. So when I was vegan, and I was vegan for 4 years, and I'm not going to discuss why I'm not vegan anymore, but I felt always anxious. I felt always like too light. I couldn't ground myself easily. At the same time, I realized everyone has their own bio-individuality. So making sure that you ground yourself with healthy fats, healthy carbohydrates, healthy protein, vegetables and fruit that have this property. And I have a mini course that it's all about the food energetics and the intuitive eating part. So I'll link that below because maybe that could be beneficial for you to understand your body type and what foods, because I explain everything. There is PDFs on what energy and food they share and what's good for your body. So I'm just going to link that down below. I want it for you to get an idea of what it really means to ground yourself through the food. So heavier meals, okay? We're not talking about weight loss here. We're talking about anxiety. Now, the next step is grounding through meditation. Now you can implement meditation. What I mean by that is the energy practice of becoming present and grounding yourself into your body. A lot of the time people with anxiety, and they're wired around worrying so much. Their brain is literally wired around fear. That's who I was too. That's back in the days. And believe it or not, I used to smoke cigarettes because I had such a high anxiety that whatever I was doing wasn't enough. Now, I didn't know meditation back then, and I didn't know about cleansing my energy, trauma release, any of that. I was 16 years old, 17, and smoking is kind of cool in Italy. I don't like to say that, but it is. And at that time, I also wanted to be looking cool. But I had a very high anxiety. So one of the things that you can do through the meditation, and if you have resistance to meditation, I just want you to understand that through visualization, maybe that's a better activity, better practice for you when you visualize your crown chakra opening up and this golden light coming through and traveling through the spine and creating an anchor down through the sacrum, so you can feel the energy of source grounding your body and anchoring you down to Mother Earth. And that a beautiful practice, if you can't focus maybe at your work or in your home, is to literally go to the beach, a park, the forest, wherever you are, where you have a piece of grass, and take your shoes off and allow for 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour for your energy to connect with the energy of nature. Nature is such a good place for you to recharge and cleanse your energy. It literally is plugging yourself back into the battery cord so that you can ground yourself, but then something beautiful happens, which is the next step, which is cleansing your energy. A lot of the time, people don't understand that the anxiety may be yours, but it also may be others' people. And it is important to realize that. And I'll give you an example. Back in the days when I was living in Italy with my parents, my mom is the queen of living with a high functioning anxiety. And I didn't understand that when I was a kid, obviously. I didn't understand that when I was a teenager. I was in the home, and as an empath, I was absorbing her anxiety without even knowing what was happening. So now I ask myself, was it even mine? But then when I left, it kind of stayed in my system. So it took me many years of practice to fully let that go. But you can do this again in less than many years. One of the things that you can ask yourself right now is this anxiety even mine? And ask yourself if you're living or working with or in a relationship with someone who has a high functioning anxiety, worrying all the time. That will affect your energy, especially if you're sensitive to energy. For example, I cannot be in a relationship, intimate relationship, whether it's a friend or a partner, with someone who is highly anxious. My mom is enough in my world. Happy to support her, happy to be around her and kind of ground her energy now that I'm strong enough to do so. But at first, it was really hard for me. And it was a struggle. I'm not going to lie. So cleanse your energy. I have a whole YouTube video, a whole podcast episode that is all about how to cleanse your energy. But ask yourself, is it even mine? Okay, super important. Next step, which is the last one, which is trauma release. It's working through your trauma of why do you even have anxiety in the first place. Now, let's just say that you've done step from 1 to 4 and you're still having anxiety. That means that the root cause is maybe a traumatic experience. So just another example about my sweet Italian mom. She has a high level of anxiety due to many different situations and experiences she has experienced. But as an example, now as an adult, I can understand when she was about, I don't remember if it was 4 or 6 years old, in Italy, she went into the elevator with her mom, my grandma, and suddenly the elevator, everything lost power. So she dropped down completely, like she was in an elevator, so no way out. Light went off, power went off, and she dropped down. She could have died. I mean, they stopped the elevator about 4 feet from the ground. Like it was a miracle. But from that moment on, you can understand that as a child, and she had a huge trauma that now, and I'm going to add something else, now was stored in her body, part of her DNA, and then she transmuted it, unconsciously. That's what happens with generational patterns. She transmuted it onto me and my brothers. She's not guilty of it, yet this is what's happening. So again, we're talking about where and how did the anxiety form in the first place. And maybe you don't recall it. Maybe you do recall it. Like she recalled it perfectly. What I can tell you is I had moments of separation anxiety from my mom when I was little. So I had this anxiety. But again, looking back, I feel like she had it too. So we were literally codependent through this anxiety that was chaos in the home. And when I left finally the household, and I started my healing journey and I started implementing all of these practices in my life and I was away from her, then I was able to ground myself to decrease my level of anxiety so that when I now see her and I'm around her, I can definitely sense that it's not mine. I can watch it. I can be the observer. And I can also help her. And as I can move energy, I can just place a hand and just let her know that everything will be okay. And that is definitely, if you're hearing this and you want to do that at some point, you can absolutely practice. You can absolutely get to that level of spiritual Buddha, I call it, where you're fully grounded in yourself. And then you can see the person that maybe hurt you in different ways, big or smalls, and still be calm and compassionate. And that's how I view my mom right now. That's what I do in trauma healing sessions is we access the subconscious and we ask the body to recall that memory. And it's unbelievable everything that clients start to remember. But then it's not just remembering, it's releasing it from the body. Because I don't want to just remember. My job is to help you release the energy from the body. So something to consider. Maybe you're already doing that. That's great. Let me know in the comments. And if not, be curious enough to try those different modalities. But I can promise you that after pretty much achieving and mastering all of the 5 steps that I told you in this episode, I am now at a place where I feel really calm and grounded within myself, and anxiety doesn't rule my life, doesn't affect my life to the point where I can't even function. And that's literally how I was back in the days. It was affecting my life. And I don't think you should be getting so affected by something that you could manage. You need to learn to make peace with your anxiety, because anxiety is just letting you know you're having a fear response. And all your job is to understand what needs to be done to release the trauma, release the energy, and or create a safe space for your inner child and your body for the healing to happen and for you to be comfortable in your body and living happily every day with this new energy. So if you liked it, a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode, and a big ciao.